Hello, I'm Paul Raftery and I'm a Director with Projects RH in Sydney. Today I've been asked to say a few words about the exciting topic of mergers, acquisitions and divestments. They are considered some of the most exciting activities in the world of corporate finance, but they are really swap, sell and buy. So a merger is you swap your assets and liabilities with someone else's assets and liabilities. An acquisition is you buy a company or a product line, and a divestment is you sell a business or a product line. It's probably best explained by talking about examples. Classically, mergers occur because they create value. An example would be when the National Bank of Australasia and the Commercial Bank of Sydney merged to become the National Australia Bank. What happened was they effectively halved the number of branches they needed to have between them. And at that same time, that what were 7 big Australian banks merged into 4. The last bank was privatised, being the Commonwealth Bank of Australia. What happened though was not just was there savings from reduced number of branches, which took a number of years to occur, but these banks gained scale, and today the big 4 Australian banks are probably in the top 20 credit rated banks in the world, but more importantly by assets they're in the top 100. If they had not merged, they would be nowhere in the league tables, and international clients would not want to deal with them. So the mergers generally should occur because 1 and 1 is more than 2. Commonly, we also see mergers in professional services firms. A firm in Sydney may merge with a firm in Melbourne, so they have presence in more than one location, which we've seen occur globally in the legal industry and the accounting profession. So mergers are something that we see in the media regularly. And we'll come back in a few minutes and talk about the ones that Projects RH is actively involved in. The second area we will talk about today is acquisitions. And by necessity, an acquisition means also a divestment. But a company will acquire a business because it believes it can add greater value. So a food manufacturing group might acquire an ice cream manufacturing company because it believes that within its greater brand structure, it can add more money or value, but more importantly, it can do the distribution on a marginal cost basis. So it is better able to market and distribute the product than the existing standalone ice cream company. The third of the exciting events is the divestment. This occurs where a company decides that part of its business is no longer core. What it really means is that they are going to sell it because it's worth more to somebody else. So the classic example was BHP, which began life as a mining company in Broken Hill, and it was mining iron ore and later coal, and it decided that it would form a steel company within its group, and it became BHP Iron and Steel. What BHP later discovered was that the investment returns it required didn't come from owning a standalone manufacturing business which turned iron ore and coal into steel. So it eventually divested that business, and it was listed on the Sydney Stock Exchange as BlueScope Steel. So in our day-to-day business, what do we see? We see mergers occurring across the intellectual property space. So we see companies with artificial intelligence or fintechs working together and saying 1 and 1 equals 5. We should get together. And getting together is often easier to raise money. So the mergers we're seeing are exciting because they actually lead to the completion of a company, something that can be taken to investors and to the market. The acquisitions we're seeing at the moment are mostly of businesses wanting to go into other markets. We're seeing Australian companies looking at buying a confectionery business in the United Kingdom so that they can get distribution. They are looking at a relatively small business in the UK, but it may save them years in development because when they buy that business, they will have distribution, management, tax compliance, environmentals, all those things that are so difficult to get, and not just difficult, time consuming. We estimate by the acquisition of a business in the UK, rather than starting from standalone, they will save 2.5 years, which is 2.5 years present value of profits. And we also see divestments. We are currently working with a family office who owns a considerably valuable mining tenement. And to really make that tenement work, they would need to find the best part of $500 million US. What they've said to us is, can you please sell it for us? We don't want to have to go through 7 years of developing a mine, and we don't want to have to operate it for 25 years. It's not our skill set, and we are just not, as a family, interested. That takes us to a really important point. A lot of the work we do with medium-sized businesses is driven by family considerations. Often the first generation build the business, and they build a very specialised business. The next generation either wants to diversify the business, so they look to merge with someone else or to buy other assets or trim the business. So our activity is associated with this transitional change between generations. What's important at every step is that we look to find a value add, that 1 and 1 does equal 3 or potentially 5, and that we can deliver it. Our job is to communicate to the market the opportunity. What's our role is we are the marketer, we're the advisor, and we explain to potential investors how they can achieve the value they need to achieve. So really, whilst the market talks about exciting things of mergers, acquisitions and divestments, they're really swapping, selling and buying. It occurs across the market, but you do need to be prepared, and that's the role we have. I hope you found this of interest, and we would love to talk to you about potentials, mergers, acquisitions and divestments. I'm Paul Raftery, and I'm a Director at Projects RH. Bye for now.